What we're now going to be talking about
we end up doing
is development.
pretty good. Yeah.
Specifically, construction and development was still alive in 2025. And we've got some great panelists here for you today. And what we're going to do, the format of this will be, I will share a little high-level data about the construction and development market, courtesy of Revista. And then each of our panelists will walk you through a project that they have been working on recently or maybe are still working on. And we have a nice diversity of projects represented here. We have a large MOB with a very interesting twist in that story and a sale leaseback. We have another MOB that was part of a mixed-use development, which has got a very interesting backstory as well. We have one of those much talked about repurposing projects, which John is going to tell us a little bit about. And then Ben, everybody talks about behavioral health, and not too many people actually go through and do projects, but PMB is actually in the midst of doing one. So we're going to learn more about that. But maybe I'll just let each of our panelists introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll come back to me and I'll do that high-level stuff. So Eric, why don't you go ahead?
No, perfect. Eric Schmidt, Senior Vice President, Investments with Remedy.
Jamie Northam, Senior Vice President of Healthcare Development for Ryan Companies.
Troy Freeman, Vice President Real Estate at Banner Health in Arizona. And this picture of me, I was 12 years old. It's been a minute. I'm not sure where that came out of a deep, dark corner.
Yeah, Troy, I think...
You haven't changed a bit.
I'm not complaining. I mean, that picture's at least 20 years older than me, but yeah, it's been a hard 20 years. But anyhow, healthcare real estate, there you go. John with Meridian, now CFO.
And Ben Rosenfeld with PMB, EVP and partner, and I think I'm 21 years old in that photo. Yeah. So, and I'm older now. Yeah.
Well preserved. Well preserved. Well, like I said, I'm going to kick things off just to provide a little quick context. And you know, we've been hearing for the last couple of years, development is down, starts are down, completions are down, total volume is down. You've all read the headlines, some of which I have to admit, I'm responsible for writing those headlines, but they're based on the reality that the market has been sluggish in the last couple of years. Now, as we heard this morning, there's some good news on the horizon. It sounds like Revista is seeing definitely some uptick in activity, and that's good news for all of us. But just taking a kind of a quick look at some of these stats, as you can see, you know, the development dollar volume has been relatively flat. The projects completed in the fourth quarter of 2025, and again, Mike, as you said, the numbers are still maybe not 100% finalized, but you know, the development total completed is down a bit, but which stands to reason. If starts have been down the last couple of years, the completions are going to be down. The good news is starts are up in the fourth quarter, so that will translate to more completions down the line. So that's one of those good news stories. Again, looking at the starts, they're creeping up a little bit there. The top section shows that activity taking place. And then the completions, again, have dipped a little bit just because starts have been down the last couple of years, but that's starting to turn around the way it looks. This is inpatient side. The hospital starts are down currently. Behavioral health's a little bit down. Rehab hospitals, fairly consistent. And then, you know, if, as PJ was alluding to, one of the reasons development has been down, of course, is because costs have increased so dramatically. If you look at that chart, it's just crazy. And so the fact that these folks and folks like you are still able to make projects pencil in this environment with those kind of cost increases is really a tribute to everybody who works in healthcare real estate development, because it's been a challenging couple, 3 years here. So just for a little bit of context, I think with that, I'm just going to go ahead and hand off the clicker to you, Eric, and you can step up here. You can
got some notes
there. Either way, I'll grab this and get out of the way.
How's it going? So Eric Schmidt with Remedy Medical Properties. Been with Remedy for about 9 years now. Shifted kind of primarily onto our development side in the last couple. So we are now the largest owner of healthcare real estate in the country. And we do that nationally with a vertically integrated platform. So this is just some background. I'll get to the project. So we've acquired or developed over $25 billion in properties in our 13 years. Had a big jump recently, if anyone was following the news, with the Welltower acquisition, which occupied a lot of our space kind of during these development processes as well. But now we're 52 million square feet across 46 states and 1,100 properties. Our development team, which is based down in Indy, has had a pretty good year. I think, while there's been some conversation of developments being down, we've ramped up our developments kind of pretty consistently over the last 7 years. We had 7 starts for a little over 400,000 square feet and $300 million in total project costs in 2025. We expect much of the same kind of going forward into 2026 with our pipeline ahead. So, while I think that there's been a slowing down in marketed RFPs, we've seen more kind of direct health system reach out as they face kind of needs of expansion, even in the headwinds of kind of, as been mentioned, rising construction costs and the uncertainty there. So the project I'm going to talk about was actually the one that we just got the award for. It's Centra Langhorne Outpatient Medical Center. And like any of these projects, there's no kind of one group that is responsible for it. While Remedy is the developer, we had fantastic partners throughout this process. I had to look back before this and realize that I had, I think, my first conversation in mid-2022 when this came to market. And back then, it wasn't Fifth Third. It was PJ's old shop, H2C, that started that I think came Fifth Third in the middle of it. We also had, obviously, Centra, who's the occupying tenant in it, which was, the collaboration with those can't be understated, as well as Haskell for architecture, Hurt and Profit engineering, Robbins & Morton, our GC, Siemens, our construction lender, and obviously Kane Anderson, our capital partner. So this project, is a larger one on the scale of what Remedy's completed so far. We don't have a ton of projects that are works that are above 100,000 square feet, and this was a kind of a great collaborative effort. So I mentioned it started in 2022, and it didn't just start as a development project. There was a sale leaseback component to it as well. So as part of Centra's kind of overall strategy to modernize their healthcare and delivery network, they wanted to monetize part of their outpatient area as well to fund some of this. So Danville, I think a relatively mid-size MOB. It was about 40,000 square feet that we completed the acquisition of that kind of at the same time as the design and planning of Centra, or sorry, of the Langhorne Medical Center. So this was part of the RFP, and the kind of special sauce with that is that being that Remedy isn't a pure play developer, we have a large acquisition arm. This kind of fell nicely into our wheelhouse. We were able to get our arms around and kind of blend terms between both of those projects and kind of offer what we felt was pretty aggressive pricing and rent constant. And if you were to go back in time to 2022, it was an aggressive rent constant. And I think kind of one of our strong suits is that with the scope and the portfolio is that we want to be kind of consistent in it and stay by our word. We were able to maintain that constant as things changed, as markets moved, and obviously as interest rates shifted. And we're able to kind of fit that in with Centra's global plans to continue to modernize their area. So the first step in this was a relocation. And this was slightly expected when we got into the process, but as we got through the design and planning, we realized that the original site, which you can see outlined in yellow, which is a little cut off, but directly across from the hospital on land that Centra owned, was going to be too tight. It was going to involve structured parking, which, in the times of rising prices was going to add a burden to that project that was going to make it kind of near unfeasible. And so we were able to, with the help of Centra and their real estate team, locate another parcel, not far away, that would allow us to, design this project for maximum flexibility and efficiency. We were able to do all surface parking. We were able to lay out the building in such a way that let us also, in the future, if they need to, expand out horizontally. The new site was not without its problem areas. There was a significant amount of rock that needed to be blasted and moved away, as well as a large elevation change. And while we were developing this project on the site next door, there was a multifamily project going up as well. And so when you have kind of two development projects running at the same time on land where there were existing structures, we had to navigate the landscape of kind of shared access. Dirt somehow kept moving from one site to the other. That had to get pushed around. And then as well as kind of mutual utilities and those, this goes on the same line. So the coordination involved in that, as well as kind of the the planning and build consensus that we did as we worked hand in hand with Centra, was kind of our main struggle points with this one. So the building, as it falls into Centra's kind of delivery network and what they were looking to achieve is, the modernization, but our core theme was flexibility. So it's a 5-story building. 3 of the stories, the middle 3, have identical floor plates. And there's some specialty on the top and the bottom, but the main point was that while we were combining 11 specialty groups from far-flung outpatient locations and consolidating them under one roof, a campus adjacent, but close enough to that it fit in, that we needed to be able to move things around. And if you've worked with a large system, as they try and do this, there's a lot of voices that come into play in making sure that all the specialties and the services you can see down there play well with each other, as well as future-proofing for what could come next in expansion and contraction, and be able to make this so it's part of a long-term solution to their delivery. Took a lot of planning and coordination and a lot of, and sometimes mediation between the groups to make sure that the build out would fit for today and tomorrow and potentially another group that would move in. We were really pleased with this, the outcomes here. We delivered on time and within budget. The most important part, though, was that Centra and the system were pleased with the results. They were able to occupy earlier than we expected, and they're serving patients currently. Their main presence is in southern and central Virginia. They serve over 500,000 patients, and this consolidation allows them to do it more efficiently with direct access and control, and the outpatient building ties them back into their system and their facility network. So very happy with how it worked out and appreciate everyone's time.
Just pass that along to. So the way we'd like to do this is to, if anybody has questions along the way rather than waiting for the end, if anybody just wants to have a question to follow up with Eric about any of the details about his project, you could just go ahead and ask. Any questions at this point? You did a great job, Eric. Perfect. Apparently they don't have any additional questions. So. But yeah, great project. I should have mentioned that there are 4 projects represented here. 3 of them were HREI Insights Awards finalists. We didn't plan that. That's just how it worked out. And 1 was a winner, and that was Eric's. And another project, the PMB project, may very well be nominated next year. I hope you'll nominate that one because it's going to be completed this year. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions for Eric, then we'll go ahead and we'll go on to our next project. Troy and Jamie, you can tell us all about it.
Well, let me start here, I guess. We'll do a quick overview. 30 seconds here. I mean, Banner Health, super regional health system based in Phoenix, about $16 billion top line revenue, a lot of metrics here on this slide, but 55,000 employees, and we're the largest private employer in Arizona. We operate in 6 states for the real estate people in the room, most of you. It's about 26 million square feet, 500 locations, and we're on a journey right now. I think one of the bigger themes for us is really trying to bend the cost curve, moving towards value-based care, both as payer and provider. Currently seeing 25-30% of our revenue coming out of the payer side of the equation. So if any of you didn't think health system, real estate was fun enough, you mix in insurance, it gets even more fun. Really encourage the journey. But a really cool story, the GSQ building showing here on screen. This is the 4th or 5th project with Ryan Companies that we've worked on. It's been a really great partnership. And we decided to kind of co-present and share this one just because it has an interesting genesis. I mean, the building is a fairly, it's a down the middle of the fairway MOB, but it's got a really cool history the way it came together. And before Jamie introduces herself, interesting dynamic. We benefit in Phoenix of a growth market. Our net in-migration annualizes over 100,000 for the past several years. The West Valley in particular, or what we're showing here on this map as the southwest portion of Maricopa County, anchored by the cities of Buckeye, Peoria, Goodyear, Avondale, is seeing 4 to 5% annualized population growth rate. Some of the fastest developed single-family subdivisions in the country are in this submarket. So as you look at Banner's 100-plus locations in the Phoenix area, we had a lot of work to do, right, to keep up with growth and demand in that southwest segment of the market. Part of that and part of this story is we had land banked and got ahead of that, but we didn't really know if our land bank was quite in the right place. And so was it, let's do something in Buckeye, or was there something else that needed to come first? And that's an interesting part of this story. So Jamie, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Before I get into the project itself, I'll just give a quick little overview of our Ryan healthcare sector. So the healthcare sector is one of several sectors at Ryan Companies. We cover all service lines from development, construction, design, property management, capital markets. So we work with our clients in many different ways. For some projects, we're just doing one of those service lines. Some of them we're doing all of the service lines. It really just depends on the needs of the client. And as far as the healthcare product type, we really cover the full gamut. So anything from hospital renovations and expansions to medical outpatient buildings, centers of excellence, specialty clinics, post-acute care centers, life science, pretty much everything. And then consistently, we're ranked in the top 10 for national healthcare development firms as well as design builders. So as far as this project, really, how did it come about? It's a little bit of a cool story because, initially it was planned as a multi-tenant speculative medical office building on a fabulous mixed-use development in the city of Goodyear, in their new downtown area, what they called Civic Square. We had done, or Ryan had built most of the buildings at GSQ. We built the new city hall for the city of Goodyear, a new office building, new library, parking garages, all the infrastructure. And we had a long-standing relationship with this master developer. So I had approached this master developer, which is Globe Corporation, about a potential medical office or medical outpatient building. And just knowing the demand, all the growth in the city of Goodyear and beyond in the West Valley, it was pretty pronounced with very limited supply. So they were open to the idea, not really knowing the healthcare space at all, really relying on me and my team to really paint that picture for them and give it a go. And so we created a concept design and plan for a 65,000 square foot, 3-story medical outpatient building. Submitted it to the city of Goodyear, started that process going forward. We had a great site identified right adjacent to the city hall at GSQ. So fast forward, putting the feelers out in the market a little bit, but even aside from that, I had a chance coffee meeting with Troy here at Starbucks in North Scottsdale.
In our hood?
Where we both, in the area we both live. And, we were talking about a variety of things, and he had, expressed his, new priorities on his plate, which involved 3 new requirements that he was looking for in the in the West Valley. And you could not find any space. And the problem was the quick timeline for it. It really didn't allow for a ground-up development. Of course, there was no existing supply, right? And so he's really looking to separate all these requirements and look at even under construction space. So talking about, this development, well, have you thought about, Goodyear? What do you think of this location? We might actually be able to meet that timeline. Just because of where we are in the process, and that particular site is, it's ready to go. Infrastructure is already there. We're already building a parking garage adjacent to that building to support that site. So conversations progressed really quickly after that, and we went through a signed LOI. I would say from the time we had a signed LOI to completion of the building and banner space. Which they ended up putting all 3 requirements in the building. So it quickly morphed from a speculative multi-tenant MOB into a build-to-suit. But that was about 15, 16 months time frame. The construction time frame alone from the time we broke ground to when we opened was 11 months. And in that 15, 16 months, we negotiated the LOI, negotiated the lease. The master developer wanted to be a partner in the deal. So we negotiated a JV agreement, negotiated a parking declaration for the parking that supports the building, and then go through all of the approval process with the city of Goodyear. And as far as where this is located, Troy shared a map of where all of Banner's locations are, but you can see here it's really right in the heart of the West Valley region of Metro Phoenix, which is really the high growth area for the region. All of the growth is happening out west, so very prime location, right next to pretty close to the I-10 freeway and great visibility. And here's a aerial, another perspective of the actual site and master development. So,
Jamie, before you go too far, I think part of there's 2 things here that I think were really interesting from a system perspective on how this came together. One is, Jamie mentioned it, we had 3 separate requirements, 2 from our medical group, 1 for our outpatient imaging, all trying to land somewhere in the West Valley. We had this odd circumstance where we had a forced relocation of an outpatient imaging location. That's like the perfect nightmare for a health system, right? We got to move outpatient imaging, which was conveniently located on a competitor campus, but it was an acquisition, very productive location. And at the same point in time, have our medical group trying to expand primary care and other cardiovascular and other service lines in this marketplace, all sort of like fighting for space, trying to find their way. But and they were looking at slightly different parts of the West Valley. What was really interesting as we start to analyze this as the potential for one cohesive project, one of the only reasons it worked is that this GSQ environment, this is one of the few downtown sort of urban feeling locations in all of West Phoenix. And was it not for the center of gravity that this master development created, there was no way to get 3 different groups and requirements to land in the same point in time. And I don't know that Jamie did herself enough service and credit. We had coffee a couple of times, and she was like, hey, maybe you should think about it a little bit differently again and sell it one more time internally before we really started to pivot that corner, and it moved really quickly. But what this doesn't show is this GSQ environment is landing retailers, restaurants, and users that wouldn't go out of Scottsdale or Phoenix historically. And so it really has created this incredible environment. And during our grand opening, which was just a couple months back, I left. We were scheduled to take appointments until 1 o'clock, and our staff was there till 3 p.m. with the volume. When I walked out, there were couples coming from every different angle towards this building to come in and tour and see if this was a place where they wanted to receive healthcare. And it struck me that as we get older and consume more healthcare, you get this opportunity to go to your doctor more often. It's not always fun, but if you're going to do it, might as well go have a nice breakfast and do a little shopping and incorporate it into your day. And so it was eye-opening to think about and take a step back and say, as we consume healthcare, what is the environment you want to receive that in? And GSQ has just been a real shining example of us thinking about our business a little bit differently. So I think that's where it becomes a bit of a cool story.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think just it's hard to, look at it and or even articulate it here, on paper and what it looks like, on a map. But going out there, and that's where I knew, if you can just get your user groups to come out to the site and see, it's kind of hard to tell, but you see that green belt right there. That's all like walking paths, a wash, there's an amphitheater there. You've got the other green patch there is, the Civic Square Park, all surrounded by great restaurants and retail. And, I think that's what it took. That was what did it, right? Just them going out there, seeing the site.
Seeing the vision. Yeah.
And seeing the vision.
Did Jamie or Troy, did you guys see any economies of scale by bringing those three requirements together, and how did that impact the decision, and or does that impact cost?
Super interesting question. There's another dynamic on the story, and I talked about Buckeye earlier, and this is kind of a story of, frankly, I think we were asking ourselves the wrong question internally at Banner. So I'm working on, we've owned land in Buckeye 10 miles west of Goodyear for 20 years, and our board and our CEO are like, when are we building the next building in Buckeye? When are this growing out there? It's growing, but I'm talking to our medical group and our ambulatory leadership, and they're like, Goodyear, Avondale, we've got things here. So we really had to stop first and say, what's the right question to be asking? Is it what comes next in Buckeye, 10 miles down the road, or is it like we need to solve this need in Goodyear, which is a bit more here and now? So first it was reframing and ask ourselves the right question. And there was a little give and take required to get everybody to settle on this location. But again, because of the activated environment, we felt like it had a larger catchment area and center of gravity to draw from. We probably still have a leave behind requirement, I'll say, closer to Avondale for some more primary care growth, that just this was too far out for that concentration. But as we reframed our thinking on how do we sequence both of these initiatives, and how does the center of gravity of Goodyear Square impact that trade area, this landed and has turned into an incredible project. And coming out of the gates, we've been open 3-4 months. We're seeing volumes that far exceed our expectations.
Great.
And here's just another overview, gives a little bit of a better perspective of all of the development that's happening around Banner's building. And it's continuing to grow. I mean, that aerial didn't do it justice because it's an old aerial and a lot has been developed since then, but you can see here just a lot of great restaurants to where you see the Harkins, and on the east side of that is a lot of high-end mixed-use retail going in. A lot of high-end shopping. So it's going to be just really great for the Banner patients and staff and visitors that are coming to the building. And then here's just some overall facility stats. So again, it's 65,000 square feet, 3 stories. We really Banner was able to keep with the design for the most part of what we had submitted to the city, just to help accelerate that timeline, and we're able to kind of reconfigure the core to make it more of a single tenant use. Occupancy, so that, we completed the building and got C of O in August of 2025. And it was on schedule, on budget, so great success. Ryan Companies was the developer and the GC for it, and then our design partners included Butler Design Group on the core and the shell, and then on the TI, Devaney Group, which is they do a lot of work with Banner across the country. And then as you can see here, the different service lines for Banner, so great mix, definitely like, what you want to see in a multi-specialty medical office building. And then, what I didn't mention too was just the interest that we had in this. We capitalized this project on our balance sheet with our JV partner as well, but going out for debt, the debt market was highly interested in this. We got, I think, 12 term sheets back, and were able to secure very competitive terms for the loan there. So overall, it was a great success, and we couldn't be happier. I'll pass it over to you. Sure.
Jamie, but the term sheet interest, I mean, that was before Banner or after Banner?
Well, that was after Banner, of course. Yes, of course.
The speculative.
Speculation. No, this is all after Banner. I mean, it was, long-term lease. Obviously, you can't beat Banner's credit, and just a good story, good location. There was just a lot going for this project. That is, what lenders like to see. So, and I'll turn it back over to you, Troy.
I don't know. There's some cool pictures here. I think we did a good job with the story.
Pretty building.
Yep.
Well, I have a question for you. Both the two projects we've heard about so far both showed a lot of creativity. Eric, with your sale leaseback component, that certainly added an interesting wrinkle. And hats off to you, Jamie, and the Ryan team for coming up with the idea of pivoting from the multi-tenant building to the quick-to-deliver build-to-suit for Banner. I was just curious, and it sounds like you had a good relationship with the master developer of the mixed use. Is there anything about the mixed use component of it that was particularly challenging or made it easier, or anything unique about working on a mixed use project?
I'll give you our perspective on it. We have one other medical office in Phoenix that sits in more of an urban environment, and it's been a bit of a parking nightmare. So this 65,000-foot building is on a 1.3-acre parcel. I think we've got maybe 50 surface stalls, plus
41.
or minus 41 in front of the building. The rest is structured parking across the street. I had to answer questions on parking day after day after day. People were just conditioned that it was going to be a failure. Customers were going to hate it. It wasn't going to work because of a bad experience or a somewhat negative experience at one other location. And this has been the exact opposite. I kept trying to tell people it's really simple. There's a parking garage. You walk across the street.
Covered parking.
It's
for
like, this
free.
isn't rocket science. We do it all the time. We're adults. But
Yep.
it was an interesting sell. I think the other piece was just, again, really assessing what are we trying to solve for? What is that customer base that we're trying to attract to this facility? And how far do we think we can do that with this combined set of services?
And I think from our perspective, it did work to our benefit and to Banner's benefit ultimately, because we were already so ingrained working with that master developer on the overall project. So we knew the ins and outs of all of the design. Butler designed too. They also were the architect on the other buildings. So just having that synergy and that relationship and we were building that parking garage already, and we were doing the infrastructure. So we're able to tie it together, really condense the time frame to do that. And then the relationship that we had with the city of Goodyear through that entire process. It was really beneficial. They let us do things that probably they would not have let most developers do. They didn't have that relationship. We were able to do parallel reviews, and when I went in there and said, this is a time frame, this is how we get there, and this is what the city of Goodyear is going to have to commit to be able to get us there, because otherwise it still doesn't work. It will not work for Banner. And they were committed, and I think that all came together. It was like, package
I think
deal.
the city of Goodyear probably didn't get enough credit in our story.
Yeah.
They were unbelievable to work with to make this happen, and they've just been great partners. So, good.
Absolutely.
Anything else on this one? Or I'll see if anybody has any questions for Jamie or Troy. They did a great job talking about it, telling us all about this project. Fantastic. Well, in that case, John, did you have a question for them, or?
Oh, no, I was just trying
You're
to
just reaching
clicker.
for the clicker. Okay,
Clicker.
there you go. So, John and his team at Meridian are well known as kind of, some of the gurus of adaptive reuse and repurposing, in large part out of necessity. Being in California, it's not always easy to do ground-up development. But tell us about this cool project.
Yeah, well, first just a little bit about Meridian. We've been around since '99, and I would say, Murray, that I really enjoyed the awards back in 13, I think was the first year you did them. They were a lot less competitive, and we won more often. I can remember years, we were so excited, we would get 2 awards in a single thing, and then this guy next to me would get 3. So it just doesn't happen today, but it's a great business. I enjoy it. I think after watching my colleagues' presentations, I wish I would have put in prettier pictures, but I'll try to get through it. So we have a really interesting, we are West Coast focused. We have an interesting project that we did also in Arizona. This is in Tucson. I think you guys have a presence there too, Troy. We had a user that had a requirement. We had a friendly group, Tenant Health, that had a shuttered hospital. They had been sitting on it for 15 years. They didn't want somebody to get a hold of it and compete in their marketplace. So we had this unique opportunity to marry this former hospital with this requirement. So pretty unique that you take a high acuity facility and move it the acuity down. So we partnered with El Rio Health. We were able to purchase this. They are a PACE clinic, and if you don't know what that is, that's Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. A lot of people might call it adult daycare. It's not really that, but it is a wonderful program that allows care for our seniors at a far lower cost, better quality, and than going into, say, a nursing home. So we love it. We've done quite a few PACE programs. This is by far and away the largest one at 95,000 square feet. So they won, we talked about it here. We talked about, the speed to market was really important to them. Cost was really important. And also not cannibalizing some of their other facilities. So I'll get into that in a minute. But the point being is that we embarked on this project at a time when construction costs were rising. We went out to market, and El Rio is a very well capitalized PACE user and really struggled to get term sheets. Thankfully, my friend Joe at BMO stepped up and did the lending on this, and it's been great. But it wasn't without its challenges to begin with. Let's see what I got on the next slide. So interestingly, we took I think up in the top right-hand corner. I didn't want to make it too big because I was afraid somebody would steal my secret sauce. But we took cell phone ping data of their patients. These are El Rio's patients, where they were coming from, and I think we plotted them against other locations to make sure that this location wouldn't cannibalize much the other clinics that they were drawing, where they were seeing patients at. So some of the other really interesting things we did on this is that El Rio, I think they have 15 or 16 sites of care around Tucson, and they very much wanted a path to ownership, which is somewhat of a hallmark of Meridian's, that we often do structured deals in where the health system can own. And if somebody could help me figure out how I could avoid always selling to the health system, that would be awesome, because in this case, El Rio is in the final throes of using Tucson industrial bonds to purchase it. We got substantially complete last month. We should get C of O in the next couple of weeks on this project. So great outcome, and a really flexible structure using some of this proprietary data to try to figure out the right location. It just so happened it lined up with this existing hospital. Let's see what else I have. It's not the most sexy project in the world. I mean, this is just a rendering of it, but it's a clean looking, very nice, nicely built building. It's going to house a whole host of services to the El Rio patients. It's, like I said, just now wrapping up and on time, on budget. We're able to get a very nice lease rate, but again, that doesn't matter too much since El Rio is exercising their option to purchase it. So they will be able to purchase it. I think it's around less than $500 a foot. So it's a pretty good, even for Tucson market, it's a pretty good price per square foot. So I think that might be it. I hope I don't go into one of your slides. Is it? Let's see.
Give it a whirl.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So John, before you go,
question.
So it went from a higher acuity to a lower acuity
Yeah.
facility. I mean, how much internal work was necessary to reconfigure the space?
Yeah, so it's about $30 million, $300 a square foot. It went into the building, so we didn't buy it for much in terms of it was a 15-year-old shuttered building. I mean, they literally had a little tractor in there just demoing everything. So. And as a side note, this was fun. I took our investment committee on tour of this, and we go, the investment committee, they don't go out to the sites very much, so we go in there and we see somebody in there, and this is like an old haunted hospital, and literally some crackhead was in there cutting the copper pipes. And I'm like, and he comes running out, and my investment committee member, he's like, forget it, it's fine, we don't need to go in. But I'm like, we could have really partnered with him. I mean, let him do some more of the demo. We weren't really going to reuse any of that, so we could have let him just keep going.
Well, you could have referred him to Ben's behavioral health facility.
I was going to say, it's unfortunate. Unfortunately, it's a good segue to this project. Yeah.
Well, before we get to Ben, and you've been waiting patiently, I appreciate that. Do we have any questions for John before we go on about his
I have one
project?
I have one up here too. John,
Go
this
ahead.
thing, you won't believe this, but this building was actually pitched to me by a couple other developers in this room as a concept. But
Oh,
it
wait,
was
our building?
Your building.
Oh,
It was
really?
like 15 years vacant. So,
15 years vacant.
So really what you repurposed, it's kind of a cool story. It was like 4 walls and a roof, right? Was there anything salvageable? I mean,
No, there wasn't. No, central plant redone, everything redone.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think we didn't change out the windows.
All the copper pipes were gone?
Yeah, all the copper pipes were gone.
pipes were
It was a big undertaking.
It was, and I mean, there's obviously a lot more to it. We had to use multiple primes to accomplish we sort of divided into the core and shell and the tenant improvements, and in order to hit the speed, I think we broke ground or I didn't really break ground. We started the project in sort of October, November of 24 and done now. So it was a lot of coordination. Also on site, I think as Carondelet Health had a site there as well, so we had to contend with them and their patients coming in and out at the same time. We had Northwest REIT selling that to another person during this process. So yeah, but I think Tenet Health was kind of worried about some of the competitors.
So you had some crafty competitors that were talking to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're probably cutting into the next event, but take your time, Ben. Tell us about your project, and we're loving to hear about it.
Yeah, I will. And again, I'm Ben Rosenfeld with PMB. I'm the development lead on this project. We have a very quick video here, but before I get into that, in the interest of making this as succinct as possible, because as folks know, I can talk about this project for hours and hours and hours because there's just so many components to it. But a couple of things piqued my interest just going through our talk here. One is you talked about mixed-use developments, to attract customers, to keep staff happy. Well, it's funny, in behavioral health, it's sort of the exact opposite because of NIMBYism, right? So as you see here, this is a mixed use, it's in an industrial park, but we're providing our own campus here. So it's kind of, I thought that was interesting just because of how easy it is to challenge projects, especially in California where this is located. And then another observation, you talk about committing to cap rates on development deals and 22, 23, and where they stand now. We fortunately just had a tenant exercise a purchase option, which, you talk about negotiating purchase options, you're like, I hope they don't exercise. A few months ago, we're like, I hope they exercise, and they did. But we've done a few projects that we're calling fee development at risk, and this is one of these structures. So I just want to recognize a couple fundamentals that made this project a reality. One is the vision of RUHS, who is the healthcare system for the county of Riverside. They really created this one-of-a-kind campus and vision that they hope to replicate. Stories told is that they were at a diner late night and wrote it on the back of a napkin, and boom, the wellness village was born. And then you also, in Riverside, you have top-down county support, which is super, super important. So from the Board of Supervisors to fire to sheriff to jails, kind of a recognition that there has to be a better way to care for the behavioral health population. And all these disparate entities within the county, they're seeing a lot of the same patients. So they need to come together to help solve the problem. And then the third thing is just payment innovation. So I don't think this project ever would have happened if the state of California didn't sponsor through its behavioral health infrastructure program, BCHIP, you may have heard of that. If that wasn't in effect, the county never would have dreamed as big and pulled off this project. Well, I won't say working with the state was always great, but it was or smooth. It was the impetus for this innovation. Mm-hmm. So with that,
you want to
let it rip.
Let her rip.
know about the why, right? So why are we doing this? And basically what hits home with us is we're changing people's lives. It's an opportunity to really help the community, and that's why we all come to work.
For me personally, I've been with Snyder Langston for 5 years. I raised my hand, and I raised my hand to be here because of the why and because of what we were building. I wanted to build something that was meaningful and that was impactful. And so when coordinations get tough, I have Remember the Why written on my board in my office.
What's unique about this campus is that it is the first campus in the nation to have a continuum of care for behavioral health, all co-located on one campus. So all of the uses that you're going to need to basically get care for your behavioral health needs are going to be located in the same spot. You can walk from building to building, and you'll be able to get your outpatient services all here on campus.
So as you can see, this campus is unique. Just about everything on this campus has been built in one form or fashion before for the county, but never all in one place, right? And so you have this full continuum of care that they're providing to the community, and the whole thought behind that is to allow people to progress through their journey in one place so that that healing can be consistent. This is probably one of the most important projects that the county has undertaken to focus on mental and behavioral health challenges. It's something that faces all of us as individuals, as families.
I'm Esteban Flores. I'm with Snyder Langston, one of the assistant superintendents here at RUHS Wellness Village. What makes this project very important to me is that I come from a background of helping kids with behavioral diagnosis, and I know a lot of families needed this, and now that we are offering this, I personally know this is going to make a big change for all those families that are looking for something like this.
The need is everywhere. It's local, it's international, it's global. It's everywhere. So all of us, as you walk through the project site, you'll be hard-pressed to find one person who isn't extremely passionate about what they're doing here.
So I'll get a gold star from our marketing department for showing that video. So thank you for indulging me there.
Yeah, no, it was great. And Ben, I don't mean to sell you short here. I mean, if you have more you want to tell us about the project.
I can run through a few slides, but
yeah, please.
Are we actually good on time or no?
The timer down there says we have 24 minutes left, but I don't think that's right. Are we good? Okay. All right. Fire away.
So this is a P3 with PNB in the County Riverside. It was a $517 million lease revenue bond financing. We also received $80 million in BCHIP grants, which comes with a 10% match from the grant recipient being the county. We signed a 33-year facilities lease, or by we, I mean the 501c3 owner, which I'll get into, signed a facilities lease with the county that at the end of that term, the campus reverts back to the county once all the bonds are paid off. And this was procured through a public RFP process. So our scope of services from PNB's perspective was very similar to what it would be on a project where we bring debt, equity, guarantee financing, lease it, manage it, except in here from a risk perspective, we kind of capitalized our developer profit or developer fee into the project, and we put that entirely at risk to sort of add it as an additional contingency when we were cutting our deal with the county. So we did our normal teaming. There is funding pressure with these bonds, so speed to market, with these grants, so speed to market was very important. Managed all the CEQA land use and outreach, and then helped figure out a way to strategically get the state money into this financing, which I'll talk about in 1 second. And then here, which is super cool, we have a robust property management platform, and the county is taking us up on managing this building, which is super good for consistency and for first patient and move in, as we have sort of more of the expertise than the county does themselves. So this is how the financing worked from a bond perspective. So as you see, there's two tranches. In the top left, $442 million was one tranche, and then $75 million was the second tranche. So I just highlight the second tranche because that tranche has a 3-year call option at par. And so what will happen is that'll be retired, and the grant funds that we get will reimburse that we've been using as a reimbursement will retire that tranche of bonds. And the reason why we had to do it that way is that the states wanted priority as a part of the state wanted priority as a part of their funding agreement to have step-in rights. And we've kind of talked to them, we're like, well, you're 20% of the project, our bank and the investors are gonna want to complete the project. And they said, no, we don't care, take it or leave it. So we came up with this creative structure to structure the grants as a reimbursable, and then we financed 100% of the project. These are lease revenue bonds. They were rated one tick lower than the county's credit themselves. Tax exempt, meaning you must, the uses within must be not for profit. 95% of the uses within the building must be not for profit. And then in terms of how the offering was received, we were 1.4x subscribed when Morgan Stanley, the investment banker on this. So there's a lot of hunger for California paper just because it's such a high tax state. So people were really excited about this project from an investment standpoint. Really quickly, so you probably can't see it that well, but effectively the center triangle there is, and this is our org chart structure. This was a SPE that we created that entered into a development agreement with P3 Riverside Holdings, LLC, and they're, for all intents and purposes, a not-for-profit pass-through that is allowed to access tax-exempt lease revenue bonds. They then entered into a lease-leaseback with the County of Riverside, and then all of the obligations within the ground lease and the facilities lease was then put on PMB as a part of our development agreement. And then we contracted with Snyder Langston as our design builder. Here's the campus. It's got 5 different buildings. The top right, or the right half of the site plan here, this is kind of the front door to the campus. So you've got the Wellness and Education Center, which is effectively 100,000 square foot behavioral health medical office building. Primary care, women's and children's, outpatient behavioral health. That is open to the public. Public will be going in from there for appointments every day. And then the recovery center in the top right, this is the front door. It's effectively behavioral health, urgent care, sobering center, crisis stabilization. So residents will kind of be triaged there. So rather than the sheriff taking people to the jail, or rather than people going directly to the hospital, they'll be triaged to this site if that's the appropriate setting. And then they make their way through the continuum of the campus, either to the permanent or the temporary supportive housing, which is the residences, or the restorative care building, which is the MHRC, or the ARF, which is just jargon for more intensive services for adults. And then the bottom left corner, we have the Youth and Family Care Center, which is for intensive residential programs for kids and families, which is super cool. This is the first children's and family center in Riverside County. So it all works together, and this is a graphic showing how they all work together. And then I'll just quickly run through some photos, just to give you some look and feel of the quality of the product. We're going to be delivering this on a phased basis with a rent start in first quarter of next year, first patient, first quarter of next year, but we'll be delivering these 5 buildings kind of every 2 months from now until the end of the year. So yeah, super proud of it. We're working on other similar projects, structured similarly, and super bullish on both the public provider behavioral health, as well as some for-profit joint ventures with health systems that we're working on as well, and like LifePoint, for example.
Oh, that's awesome, Ben. And I was going to ask you, I mean, is this a one-off, or is this something that can be replicated? It sounds like you're working on some other projects already.
Yeah, certainly.
Within the state of California?
Yes, yeah. There's been a huge influx of projects because of that grant program.
Yeah. I mean, is it something, could you make the numbers work in other places outside of California?
I think you could, but it's very tough, and there's got to be some sort of subsidy. I mean, it's tough to make it pencil. Like, the interesting thing about this campus is the county itself is only going to operate the outpatient building. It's subcontracting everything out to about 15 other So they're running a sub-RFP process for other not-for-profit operators.
Yeah. Well, I think every conference I've been to for the last few years, and certainly talking with people in the industry, we all just know intuitively we need more behavioral health facilities in this country, but the bottom line is always difficult. And so we talk about it a lot, but we don't actually do it. And that was part of why I was really excited to hear about this project. And I'm curious though, I mean, are there any lessons learned from this that you could maybe share with us about, you know, how to get it done with behavioral health? And I know the state was instrumental, but I mean, there are probably other components that you wouldn't necessarily have to rely on the state.
Yeah, I mean, there's other, like the Be Well program, which is a collaborative of, you know, Kaiser, the county, like other not-for-profit health, like that's one model. I think it's a lot easier and has a bigger impact if it's top-down driven by people that are the public healthcare providers. I don't know if there's a great, something of this scale, if that would make sense for a banner on its own. I mean, probably not. But I do think there are components of it that you can take to other projects and that are replicable. But the scale and the investment and the like traditional ROI, if you're not looking at the other savings from all the other departments, from fire, from sheriff, it probably is a little bit tough to underwrite, although we're going to continue to try.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. Very, very important. And it's just a good reminder that, you know, everything we do here is designed to improve people's health care and improve their lives. And it's easy to lose sight of that when you're working so hard to just get it done. But at the end of the day, the product that's delivered is really so beneficial to society and people out there. Time for one last question. Anybody have any questions for Ben or any of the other panelists?
What was the timeline from infancy of the deal starting to?
Yeah, so we won the RFP in 2023, and then that was on a different site, and then we moved sites. But we were able to use the same design. So I would say 23, 24, we started construction, and we're going to be completing the end of 26. So really quick in our world, especially for the size and complexity of it.
I would just invite you to thank our panelists for a wonderful job.